Aloha, you're listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm here with the Athletics' Tony Jones. Let's go.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, I'm back with my guy, Tony Jones. We're recording on a Wednesday afternoon, and free agency is in full swing now. Lots of the top free agents now off the board. Not a lot of cap room left for teams, so I'm not sure we're going to see any other big major deals at this point. Tony and I today want to talk about teams that improved or teams that kind of slid back based off of their free agency trades and the NBA draft. And so we're going to kind of get an overview of that. We're going to actually start with the offseason free agency stuff, offseason winners and losers. And Tony, I got to ask you, because you're a huge Knicks fan, we're just going to start with the Knicks. It looked up until today like this was a kind of problematic offseason for the Knicks, right? They signed all their guys, which is great, but they had all this cap room and didn't get much better. Evan Fournier was their big signing. I'm not sure that excites everybody in New York. And then we find out that they're going to get Kemba Walker on the cheap this year in a buyout with Oklahoma City. Kemba Walker, actually from New York, has always wanted to play there. And that seems like maybe it shifts the perception of this Knicks offseason. So first of all, the Knicks a winner or loser in the offseason right now, Tony?
I think the first thing I want to say, from playing high school basketball in New York, I played at Our Savior Lutheran, and we played a lot of CHSAA teams every year. We played Rice every year. We played LaSalle every year, and Kimba's from Rice, and I know that just from being in that, just kind of being in that and playing with the Gauchos and all that stuff. All of us, we dream playing at Madison Square Garden and dream of playing for the New York Knicks. So, big shout out to Kemba for realizing that dream and playing at 34th and 7th. That's big time right there. Like no matter how it all plays out, like that's just really big time right there. And Kemba's a New Yorker through and through. So, shout out to Kemba for that. But so the deal, I think the positive for the Knicks is that they get Kemba, for not for something less than a max deal, something really cheap and really affordable. The durability issues are real. The knee is a real concern. But, with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and Evan Fournier, you're basically asking Kemba to be your fourth starter, not your third starter. So I think the shift in role is a big thing there. And, I think he can add some stability and dynamic play at the point guard spot. So it's definitely to me it's a positive, and and I think that to me I think it's a good move for the Knicks. They need one more guy that could just break down the defense to add to Julius Randle. I think you saw that lack of creation really hurt them off the dribble in the playoffs. So I'm looking at it as a net positive for the Knicks.
Where do you see the Knicks finishing in what's becoming an increasingly loaded Eastern Conference right now? I think one of the things that's difficult to ascertain right now is lots of teams, and we'll talk about a few more, are making big moves right now. The East, for once, looks like it's actually going to be pretty strong. Where do you see the Knicks finishing in the East if this is their this is their lineup going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it, right? Like, you got to look at it. Uh, um, Brooklyn's made really good moves this offseason. Getting Patty Mills is a big move and big time insurance against the durability of Kyrie Irving and James Harden. I thought that Milwaukee's moves quietly, even though they lost PJ Tucker, their moves were quietly their moves were quietly solid, right? Like they got George Hill to add backcourt depth. They got Rodney Hood, and if Rodney Hood is healthy, you have a weapon shooter with size, a 6'8" weapon shooter with size. So they're going to be right there again. The Philadelphia 76ers, I know they're in a little bit of flux because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with Ben Gordon. But as long as they have Joel Embiid, they're going to be right there. The Atlanta Hawks are going to be right there. So,
Miami adds Kyle Lowry, and
Miami added Kyle
they're
Lowry,
going for it,
and they're going for it. The Chicago Bulls got a lot better. I mean, right now you can go on and on. Right now you're looking at potentially a team led by Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown potentially being the 8th best team on paper in the conference. A team led by that team, those two, is potentially the 8th best team on paper in the conference. So, I'm willing to say that the Knicks are still going to be in that six range. I think that there are 5 teams that right now are on paper that are better than them. But man, they're going to have to come out and hoop next year. And quietly, I think that Detroit's going to be better, and and Indiana's still going to be right there because they still have guys. The East, like you said, the East for maybe the first time in 20 years might be the better conference next year.
Yeah. And they're not going to sneak in an under 500 team into the playoffs like the East kind of does almost every year now. It's going to be brutal, and I see all those teams clumped together. Washington, Charlotte. We didn't talk about Charlotte, but Charlotte is a really intriguing team. Washington is trying to make some moves as well. India, they didn't have a healthy TJ Warren last year, and that's a big difference to sort of have him back as well. I want to talk about the Bulls, because they were the other team that I think in the East made big splashes. They get Lonzo Ball. They get DeMar DeRozan in this summer. Does it move the needle, for the Bulls right now? I mean, the Bulls could theoretically end up in the same spot that they were last year. Better team, no question, a better team. But given how crowded it is in the East, it's really interesting. What do you think about the Bulls right now with Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Vucevic in the middle now? What do you think about their chances?
Well, I'm a little bit ambivalent because I definitely think they made splashes. I question their spacing a little bit, and I question the fit just a little bit. DeMar DeRozan's at his best with the ball in his hands. Zach LaVine's at his best with the ball in his hands. So you got your 2 ball in hand guys. I think Lonzo Ball's a good fit with both of those guys because he's not necessarily a ball in hand point guard, and he doesn't need the basketball in his hands to be effective. You got to make sure that Vooch is involved. And, the delicate balancing act in all of this is the most important piece to me is Patrick Williams, because you still have to make sure that he develops and that he doesn't get lost in the new signings and the new additions, because I think out of anybody on that roster, Patrick Williams probably has the best chance to become a superstar. So it's one of those things where I think it's going to be a balancing act. Obviously, the Bulls want to win now. They have to win now because they've got to make sure that they get Zach LaVine to a 3rd contract. But at the same time, they have to develop as well. And, lost in all of this is Kobe White's probably going to lose some minutes and role and shots. And we still don't know what's going to happen with Lauri Markkanen. So, the Bulls are going to have to develop their bench as well. So, I definitely think, the obvious thing is the talent level is better, right? Like, Lonzo Ball, that's a jump in talent level. Um, Getting DeMar DeRozan, that's a jump in talent level. So those are two major jumps in talent level. So we'll see how the Bulls do with that jump in talent level, and we're going to see what they do with expectation, because right now the expectation is, you got to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and it actually sort of, I can see a scenario where they do, but it's probably as a seventh, eighth seed or as a play-in team, and that's not obviously what Chicago's going through. And the DeRozan, I like the Lonzo Ball deal. The DeRozan deal to me was really problematic, just in the amount of sheer money that they gave him. 3 years,
Well, it
$85
was
million
it's
dollars.
the years that's
Yeah.
problematic for me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's going to lock them in with this core now for the next couple of years, assuming that they re-sign Zach LaVine. It's really locked them into a team that's probably peaks at a 6 seed. That's where they peak. Chances that they're an 11th seed, and they've traded away their future, picks for the next, several years as well. It's problematic to me for Chicago. Let's switch to the West. And I want to start with the Lakers because they made the big splash on draft night. We haven't talked about it yet, but getting Russell Westbrook in, and everybody, including me, watched the Lakers and said, "Okay, I don't really love this fit, but Russ is a player and he's a competitor, and I can see how he can play with LeBron. Let's see what the Lakers do to fill out this roster." And knowing that they don't have a lot of money to do it. They've added a ton of shooters. They brought back Dwight Howard. I mean, a ton of shooters. They got a couple of intriguing guys that weren't drafted on draft night sort of in as well. Do you like this Lakers team at this point? I mean, they did seem to understand what their weaknesses are. Brought in a bunch of shooters. It looks like the way they're constructing this roster, LeBron's going to be the 4, Anthony Davis is going to be the 5, and they're going to, bring in a bunch of shooters to play the 2 and the 3 there. Kendrick Nunn there to sort of back up Russell Westbrook as well. What do you think about the Lakers now? Do you like this team? Don't like this team?
I like them quite a bit. I think that, you know, I think if you had to ask me right now, the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Suns, are the three teams, are the three best teams in the Western Conference, or at least record wise. They'll be the three top seeds. Um, it'll be interesting to see how it all meshes. I think that locker room has a chance to be insane, because you're going to have Russell Westbrook in the locker room. You're going to have LeBron in the locker room. You're going to have Carmelo Anthony in the locker room. You're going to have Dwight Howard in the locker room. I mean, it's just going to be like, I want to see how the Laker beat writers just handle all of these personalities that are going to be in the locker room. But at the same time, they made some really, really intriguing moves. I mean, them getting Wayne Ellington, he's a weapon shooter. Them getting Malik Monk, he's obviously a microwave scorer. Kendrick Nunn is obviously a microwave scorer. They re-signed Taylor Horton Tucker. They're going to be deep. They're going to be athletic. They're going to be old. They're going to have a lot of shooting. They still have two of the top, 6, 7 players in the league. But they've guarded themselves a little bit against injuries. They have more guys who can play with the ball in their hands. When last year they probably only had 2 or 3 guys that could do that. They have like 5 or 6 guys that can play with the ball in their hands now. So, they're going to, the downside is there are, 14 rotation players on this roster, and there are 9 rotation spots from night to night, or 10 at the most. So there's going to be somebody that is a really good basketball player. There are going to be multiple guys that are really good basketball players that are not going to be playing from night to night. And how those guys handle not playing from night to night That's that's going to go a long way in determining what this season is for the Lakers.
I predict a lot of resting. I predict that
Yeah,
one of the reasons you're going to see this many players is that they're going to be significant resting of LeBron, AD, or Russell Westbrook, keeping them fresh for the playoffs and having enough of a competitive team that we can rotate setting those guys out and bring other players in. So I think it's going to be interesting. I actually am pleasantly surprised with what the Lakers did. I was very pessimistic after Westbrook, and I'm less pessimistic now. I see the same thing. I see, Phoenix obviously there. Utah is going to be right there as well. But the Lakers look good, and this is a fairly deep Western Conference as well. We're going to
right.
continue to see a number of other teams that are really good. So I want to talk about a team that's puzzling to me, which is the New Orleans Pelicans. Because they make all these deals to clear max cap room. They're going to go after Kyle Lowry. They don't get Kyle Lowry. They decide not to re-sign Lonzo Ball. They bring in Devontae Graham instead, and Tomo Satoransky. They give up more picks to sort of do this. And I look at the Pelicans and I'm like, I not only do I not think they got better, there's maybe a chance that they got slightly worse. And this was supposed to be the summer that they put a team on the floor that was going to convince Zion Williamson that like this is where his long-term home is going to be. Uh, do you understand what New Orleans is doing right now? Because I don't see them as a playoff team, and I'm not sure why they gave up all the assets they did to get to this spot.
Well, I think the caveat with New Orleans is the improvement of Nickeil Alexander Walker real? And if he is as good as it looks like he has a chance of becoming, then I think that, you know, I think that David Griffin kind of looks crazy like a fox, right? Like he's saying, okay, I'm going to ship out Lonzo Ball. I'm going to bring in Devontae Graham. Graham is really, really good off the dribble. He's a really good shooter. He's kind of like I don't want to I don't want to make it seem like I'm comparing it, but he's kind of like Damian Lillard light in the way that he can hurt you from deep. He can hurt you from 25 to 30 feet. Um, he's 40. He's costing $40 million less than Lonzo Ball. I think that if Devontae Graham is a high level six man, I think that that's what he can be in terms of his strength for this team. But that requires Nickeil Alexander Walker to grow into a real starter and a night to night starter and a guy that can be and a guy that can be reliable on both ends of the floor. Um, I don't like the fact that the Pelicans gave up a first round pick in this. Um, you know, Part of me thinks that, they should have just, re-signed Lonzo Ball. You got to, I think they have to get Josh Hart back into the fold because I think Josh Hart is one of the very best 3-and-D guys in the league. But, in terms of the playoffs, where's the cutoff in the Western Conference right now? Because, you have Phoenix, the Lakers, and the Jazz. I think we all know, we all can agree those are kind of your first three teams. Denver's going to be right there. The Clippers are still going to be there. Dallas is going to be there. Um, and then, you have Golden State. Golden State's going to be there. And you're going to have Portland's going to be there. So,
And
where's the cutoff in
Memphis, who
the
made the playoff game, and they're
right?
going to get better. Memphis is going to keep
Right.
getting better.
Memphis is going to keep getting better. So now you have that's 9 teams right there before you even think about the Pelicans,
Yeah.
and that's an issue because you want to try to infiltrate that playoff at some point in the rookie contract of Zion Williamson, and right now you're heading into year 3 of Zion Williamson, so you're heading into the back end of that rookie contract. So I think this year or next year, um, New Orleans really has to make a move up the standings, and I don't know that they can get there this year.
Yeah. Same with Portland, right? Damian Lillard wanted to see significant improvement on the roster. There's only so much Neil O'Shea could do with the assets that he had. Certainly not seeing it yet in Portland. And the poor Sacramento Kings, who every year say this is going to be the year going to make the playoffs, to me end up sitting there at 11, 12 in the same spot they always are. They keep making incremental improvements, but I'm not sure that it gets them, into the playoffs this year. Sad for the Kings. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about teams that helped themselves in the 2021 NBA draft. And with Tony Jones of The Athletic, you're listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. Did you know that Built Bar has 9 delicious flavors plus the occasional limited time flavor? When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they definitely are passionate about their faves. If you don't know the Built Bar flavors, well, you're missing out. Coconut almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. There's something for everyone. I'm a big coconut guy myself. Tastes like a Mounds bar. These bars are chewy. They're not dry. They taste like candy bars. They're absolutely delicious. And the cool thing about them is they're also healthy too. They have 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs. Order today and get that raspberry or mint brownie or whatever you like. Go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your first order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, I'm back with Tony Jones of The Athletic. We're talking about winners and losers of the offseason. We just talked about some of the moves that were made by teams as far as free agents and trades. I want to go to the draft. We haven't had a chance to talk to Tony. I have my draft grades up, but want to talk about the draft a little bit and teams that improved themselves because of this year's draft. Tony, was there a particular team out there that you loved their draft this year?
I can I go with the low hanging fruit?
Go
Please?
for it.
Okay, I love Detroit's draft. What the heck? Go for
Cade Cunningham, so surprised. Cade Cunningham.
it. I liked what I liked about the Cade Cunningham, um, them getting Cade Cunningham. I like that they didn't overthink it. Um, and obviously Jalen Green went into Detroit like you reported, and he had a really impressive workout. But I just like that Detroit didn't overthink it, and I loved, I loved that they were just able to add them. I liked what Oklahoma City did. I liked Josh Giddey. I like Josh Giddey with SGA quite a bit. Hey, listen, all you SGA fans that have been in me and Chad's mentions the last 2 weeks, we were not dissing him when we said that we would not trade SGA in the 6th pick for number 1. That was not a diss to SGA. We think that he's a very, very good basketball player. We think he's an all-star. We think he is an all-NBA talent. So I just want to put this on the record that you guys don't have to come in our mentions and troll us over SGA. You're preaching to the choir. We think he's really good. Chad, do you think he's really good? Yeah? Yes? No? Maybe so? Chad, SGA?
I think he's amazing.
He's really good.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah, he's amazing.
There we go.
We're just talking about Cade Cunningham for a minute and how good Tony thinks Cade Cunningham is. It's interesting, Tony. I'm going to disagree with you on Oklahoma City for a couple of reasons. One, this is a bad outcome for Oklahoma City, given the whole year of tanking that you end up with Josh Giddey. Right? Like that's who you ended up with. And that's no offense to Josh Giddey, who I also like. And to me was maybe a little bit, I had a little bit lower on my board than 6. I think he was 11, sort of on my final board, but fair enough almost in that tier for me. But you're tanking to get a superstar. at some point. And the Grizzlies, some of it's not their fault, some of it's the draft lottery, some of it's Poku's fault for going crazy in that final game and changing the draft odds, for Oklahoma City negatively. But the fact that they couldn't, and it sounds like they tried, use all of these incredible assets that Sam Presti has gathered over the years to get up and get a Cade Cunningham or an Evan Mobley or a Jalen Green in this draft, that they were unable to do it, is a loss for me for Oklahoma City, right? Like, you can say all you want, these assets are valuable, but if you can't actually collect them all and do something with those assets, then they're just assets, and it's sort of like you're collecting monopoly money at this point, right? Like it's got to have some sort of value in the market. And I think if I was a Thunder fan, I would feel like we and I think that the other thing is that we're seeing that now we're going to do the same thing again next year, and it's going to be the same sort of run through this again. Oklahoma City is going to be really bad, and now you're coming into next year's draft and sort of hoping for the same thing. I think it's problematic. If I'm OKC, this was not the outcome I'm looking for. When there was 3 tier 1 players, or in your case 4 tier 1 players in a draft, you got none of them. It's one thing when there's one and you don't win the number 1 pick, but it kind of sucks when there's 3 or 4 of them and you didn't get any of them. And then, this is also a fairly big shift for both you and I to say that Josh Giddey over Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah.
Right. Who sits there as well. Cause that to me was also a surprise.
I agree with you from that standpoint. Like, if you take everything and you look at, just what you were doing all year, you obviously weren't trying to win very hard all season. And you come away with Josh Giddey, that can seem like a disappointment. I agree. My thing with me liking Josh Giddey is that I like to fit with SGA. Like, I think that
Okay.
I think that they, along with Lou Dort, can become a really nice backcourt. I like oversized passers, oversized playmakers. I think that that's what wins. That's one of the things that wins in today's game. Like, a Cade Cunningham wins in today's game. But Josh Giddey is 6'8", playmaker. Those guys win in today's game. So that's kind of why I have some love for Josh Giddey and love for what Oklahoma City did. One of the other teams that I thought was a real winner was the Orlando Magic. Them I thought that they had a heck of a first round, especially what they did at that 5 and 8 pick. They come away with a point guard. They come away with they come away with a 2-way wing. I thought that the Magic really played their hand really well. And obviously the Magic had Jalen Suggs fall in their lap because, as you reported, Scotty Barnes went to the Toronto Raptors. So, I like that they didn't overthink it in terms of, okay, we already have Cole Anthony, we already have Markelle Fultz, we already have R.J. Hampton. And if I have to give, and if I have to be fair, if I'm giving if I'm giving the Orlando Magic love for what they did in drafting in drafting Suggs, then you have to do the same thing for Sacramento with drafting Davion Mitchell, even though that their 2 best players are currently point guards as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you felt about that Kings pick, because I think you and I are big Davion Mitchell fans. So on a talent level, I have no problem with him going 9. I think he's definitely in that tier. The fit was a little bit more problematic in that their 2 best players are guards, but they do need defensive toughness. This was the worst defensive team in the league last year. Davion Mitchell, we know, is a fierce on the ball defender. And then Neemias Queta comes in as a good defender and rebounder as well in the middle, where they also needed help. So it shocked me. The Kings draft kind of shocked me a little bit at first, but then it grew on me as I was going through the night and sort of thinking about, it's not just about positional fit. It's about the types of players that you're bringing in, the types of mentality, the type of culture that you're trying to build in Sacramento. And for that, I think Davion Mitchell is a great fit in Sacramento.
So I'm going to suggest something that might seem like a hot take, but hear me out. If I were Sacramento, I would probably be looking to trade De'Aaron Fox at this point.
Well, that's a hot take. Who would you trade him for? Like, what caliber of level of player would you need to get back for De'Aaron Fox?
So I just want to say before Sacramento fans, before I replace the Oklahoma City fans that I mentioned with Sacramento fans.
Yeah, you hate all young point guards, don't you, Tony?
I just want to say that De'Aaron Fox is an All-NBA talent. So I'm not suggesting that they trade him. I'm not suggesting that they trade him because of anything that he's done wrong. I'm suggesting that they trade him because I think Davion Mitchell is going to be that good, and Tyrese Halliburton is already that good. And Davion Mitchell's in year one of his rookie deal. Tyrese Halliburton is in year 4 of his rookie deal. De'Aaron Fox is already on deal number 2, so you're already paying him big money. So if you can trade him and get a great two-way wing, offer him to, see what happens if you offer him to Toronto for Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes, and and try to get strong in the lineup where you are not currently strong, and find some of those two-way wings while you have 3 really, really, really good point guards, and you can probably spare one of them. So that's just my thought right there.
Well, my guess is Kings fans are going to hate that. But, that is the sort of thinking that you have to wrestle with at Sacramento. At what point do you say we're serious about making the playoffs as opposed to we're just going to kind of, slowly keep rebuilding? Because I actually really like their last couple of drafts, and I really like De'Aaron Fox. Like their backcourt, I'm really pleased with. It's the rest of the team that is problematic right now. And, to your point, maybe at some point you have to start making those tough decisions about giving up where we have a strength to fix some weaknesses in the front court. So that's really interesting.
The thing right now is how does Davion Mitchell get on the floor? If you go into training camp with the current team that you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Tyrese Halliburton, and you have Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
And
Buddy, I'll be shocked if Buddy's in a Sacramento uniform by the end of
I would be too. I would be as well, but currently he still is.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's my thing. I think Davion Mitchell has a chance to be special. And, I want to see him be special. And if you're the Sacramento Kings, you have 2 special type point guards that are on deals, and you could probably use your all-in level point guard and try to find and try to get better in some areas that you're not right now.
I love that Davion Mitchell plays one summer league game, and the people that really liked him in the draft were praising him up and down for how he played, and the people that hated him in the draft were picking him apart. Of the year, he's going to be a really interesting prospect. Both groups watched the exact same game conclusions about what they saw, in that game, which is fascinating to me. And it's surprising to me that Davion Mitchell is the guy that's created these camps out there right now, when I think that there's plenty of other guys that deserve those polarized camps more than Davion Mitchell.
Because he's 22 years old, and the train of thought is you can't get better as a 22-year-old. And the other thing that's polarizing about him is that he's 6 foot. So, the train of thought, that we have is that, small guards don't win in the NBA, and old people don't win in the NBA.
Yeah.
or old people don't improve. So, and I'm not calling a 22-year-old old. I'm just saying that, relatively by where he is in his
Mm-hmm.
career. But Davion Mitchell he's a special defender. He has a special first step, and he has a special will to compete that you just don't find every day. And just one of those intangibles, or just one of those attributes, is on a standalone is a special trait, and he has like three or four of them. So I'm rolling with Davion Mitchell every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is speed round right now. I'm going to tell you the team. You give me a quick grade in the draft. We're going to start Memphis Grizzlies at 10, Zaire Williamson, Sante Aldama. What's your grade?
C, because
C. Okay, tough. Charlotte Hornets gets James Bouknight, Kai Jones, JT Thor's in there. What do you give them?
B plus.
B plus. San Antonio Spurs, Josh Primo blows everybody away. Shocked. I had 168 folks do a mock draft for me. No one had Josh Primo in the top 20. I certainly didn't see him going in the top 20, let alone 12. What do you give the San Antonio Spurs?
C minus.
C minus. Okay, we didn't talk about the Golden State Warriors. They get they get Moses Moody out of this draft. Jonathan Kuminga. What do you give them?
I give them a B.
Okay, a B. Washington Wizards, Corey Kispert.
I give that a C.
C. That's C. 16. Oklahoma. Oh, no, that's Alperen and Sengun. So the Rockets get Alperen and Sengun, Usman Garuba. They get Green. Jalen Green. What do you think about that? Josh Christopher. That's right. There's where my brain was going. What do you give them?
I give them an A.
Okay. We talked about Oklahoma City already. 17. Got Trey Murphy III going to New Orleans Pelicans. What do you think about that?
I give them a B.
Okay. At 19, let's see. 19 was, this one got traded. It was the Knicks. I know that was painful on draft night. And now my brain is, who did they trade that to?
The Clippers.
Oh, the Clippers. Okay. What did you think about that deal?
The Clippers ended up taking
Keon Johnson.
Yeah, I give that a B minus.
Okay. Your guy, Jalen Johnson, the next Grant Hill, goes to Atlanta, along with Sharif Cooper, my guy, who falls all the way to 48. What do you give the Hawks?
I give them a B.
Oh, we forgot about Chris Duarte going to Indiana at 13.
I give that an A.
Oh, give that an A. Okay. Tony likes the old guys
I
this
love
year.
Chris Duarte. I'm a Chris Duarte fan.
Oh, also they got Isaiah Jackson. Indiana got Isaiah Jackson at 22 as well. All right, there's some speed rounds. Let's do one last because I know you cover the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz freak me out, freak everybody out. I'm like literally like texting the Jazz. I told them early in the day. I think you and I talked about it. That Jared Butler was going to be on the board, I thought, at 30. And everybody in Utah was like, no way. There's no way he's going to be there at 30. He's there at 30. They trade the pick to Memphis, trade back, but he's there at 40. And they get Jared Butler. What say you about the Jazz's draft?
I give them an A.
Yeah, man. Jared Butler, who to me, if his health is clean, is easily a top 20 prospect, if not even, top 15. Getting him at 40, to me, he's a great fit, right? Like, I mean, this is a great fit in Utah's backcourt.
Yeah, it's a great fit. And not only could you have gotten him at 30, they trade back and get him at 40, and they get 2 second-round picks for him. So they replace some of the assets that they've lost over the last few years, and they got a guy who should have gone in the top 20 pretty easily. So if Jared Butler is healthy, he probably pretty instantly steps into the fourth guard role, for the Jazz, and he can play both guard positions. He can defend. He's a great shooter. He can score in range. And he's a real fit for Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson for that matter. So he's That was a big time draft for the Jazz.
Bones Highland also going to Denver. I really love that fit. I thought he was a great fit there. And Miles McBride, I was really hard on the Knicks, but they got my guy Miles McBride in the second round, Quentin Grimes in the first round. What grade do you give the Knicks?
I gave the Knicks a B plus.
All right.
I thought them getting Quentin Grimes was good at 25, but I thought them getting Miles McBride at 35. I thought that was really good.
All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about who we are, our predictions, our top three predictions each for Rookie of the Year in 2022. But first, let's talk about Rock Auto. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts stores to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? They have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available to your car or truck right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts you'll ever need. rockauto.com. All right, we're back with Tony Jones of The Athletic. We're kind of going over the offseason right now. We've talked about teams that have helped themselves in the draft as well as free agency. I want to get your thoughts now on something that I usually like to wait a week or two afterwards to let it settle in, because teams have free agency. And, you know, it was just a couple of days ago, some Bulls fans were writing in on my website, NBABigBoard.com, saying, oh, man, Ayo's going to be the starting point guard for the Bulls. And then, all of a sudden, the Bulls do make a bunch of moves, and you question whether he gets any time on the floor at all. But now that we've kind of seen the landscape go right now, and I'll be honest, I got this wrong last year. I thought Obi Toppin had a chance to be, Rookie of the Year, not because I thought he was the best prospect. I had him put much lower, just given his age and the role that you thought he was going to play on the Knicks, which he ended up not playing. And so, Tony, who is your number one prediction? My guess is that everybody in the world already knows the answer to this, to be Rookie of the Year in 2022.
It's going to be Cade Cunningham.
It's going to be Cade Cunningham. And actually, you'd think the number one pick should always be that guy, but sometimes playing time and, just different situations make that not the case. Cade Cunningham is going to be featured in Detroit. Yeah. They're going to put the ball in his hands, right? And everything is going to center around him, which is the perfect recipe to be the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to preface this right now that my answers are really going to be boring with this. Listen, Cade's going to get the ball in his hands from day one. He's got competency around him because he's got Grant to help him out offensively. He's got Sadiq Bey to help him out offensively. They're going to be running pick and rolls for him all day. He's just going to get, he's going to get every chance. He'd have to flop pretty dramatically not to be at the top of that Rookie of the Year running.
Cade's my choice as well for this. All the ingredients are right for a big Rookie of the Year run. Number two, runner up,
Jalen Green.
Yeah,
it's almost the same thing as Cade Cunningham, right? Like him and Kevin Porter Jr. are going to have the ball in their hands for most of the season, and the thing with Jalen Green is I almost expect a LeBron, Carmelo Anthony type thing between Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green. Like I expect in January, like 50% of NBA Twitter to be on one side, 50% of NBA Twitter to be on the other side. Jalen Green is going to be, a fixture on SportsCenter highlights. I just expect him to have every opportunity to be like Cade Cunningham. I expect him to have every opportunity to be at the top of the Rookie of the Year race.
Yeah, I agree. And voters like points. And my guess is that Jalen Green has the most points per game of any of the rookies that are out there as well. And that, Cade will do a bunch of other stuff that Jalen won't. But Jalen Green, could make a run, a rare run at a rookie that might even score 20 points a game the rookie year, which is very rare that happens, but I could definitely see it with him. Okay, your third choice. Are you just going Evan Mobley here?
Going Evan Mobley. I
Okay.
mean, listen, like these top three guys, I mean, because all right, so you look at four, um, Scotty Barnes, does he have a natural path to a starting spot?
No.
Unless Pascal gets traded, probably not. Does Jalen Suggs have a natural path to a starting spot? Maybe, maybe
Maybe.
not. Maybe not. Markel Fultz, if he's on the roster, he's going to be there. Cole Anthony is going to be there. There's just like these guys are going to be really competitive with him.
Yeah.
So the same thing with a number of other guys. Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, like all of these guys, they don't have natural paths to starting spot in 30 minutes a night like these first three guys do.
Yeah. And
And
Davian Mitchell would have been a guy. And even James Bouknight, who is ready to play now, is going to be behind Terry Rozier in that starting spot. And so, yeah, it's hard as you go down the list. Davian Mitchell normally would be a guy that we would think about could have a big time starting role, but in Sacramento, he's coming off the bench, and you worry about that. So I agree with you. I think it's Evan Mobley. I think that Jalen Suggs is maybe the only other guy that could sneak in there if he gets a big time role in Orlando, because I think he is actually ready to play now. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most boring rookie of the year races ever. But it also just speaks to the strength at the top of this draft.
Right. And that's the thing with Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's going to play 30 minutes a night right away. He's going to, they're going to plug him in at the 4, and they're going to play him next to Jared Allen. And he's not going to get the ball quite as much as Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green. But he's going to, my guess is, he's 14, 15 a night, 8, 9 rebounds a night, a couple of block shots. He's going to get the chance to produce at a high level.
He's Tony Jones of The Athletic. I'm Chad Ford at NBABigBoard.com. When we come back next time, Tony and I are going to talk about some of the top candidates for the 2022 NBA draft. Yeah, it's time to start talking about that draft, and Tony and I will be back talking about that. You've been listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. Aloha.